Hello. All right, you guys. We are in Act Two of Macbeth. Act Two is pretty much all about the murder, which is probably not a surprise. It's going to happen. Okay. So remember, it ended, Act One ended with Lady Macbeth teasing Macbeth, convincing him to go through with it. And now he says he's ready. And here we go. Okay. It's just a couple hours later right now. This is probably a little after midnight, the same night that Duncan arrived at Macbeth's castle. Banquo, remember him, is talking to his son, whose name is Fleance. All right, he's also going to be a pretty important character, and they're there with torches. Banquo says, "How you doing?" All right, the moon is down, so he can't tell what time it is. Hasn't heard the clock. Okay, blah blah blah. Talking about what time it is. Banquo says, "Take my sword." Might mean that he doesn't think he needs the sword because he's at a friend's castle. A little bit more irony, talking about now how the stars are all out, and Banquo is explaining why he's up. He says, "A heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep. I wanted to sleep, but I couldn't. Why not?" He prays right here. This is a prayer to the merciful powers. Restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. He's praying for heaven to kind of restrain some evil thoughts he's having. So now we know Banquo is still probably troubled by something similar to Macbeth. They both saw the prophecy, right? And maybe Banquo is having visions of like, maybe I should try to act now and make sure that my sons can become kings, things like that. But instead of just leaning into them and having Lady Macbeth say, "Yeah, do it, do it, do it," he's praying to heaven to restrain himself. So clearly, Shakespeare's trying to show us Banquo for a specific reason. Yeah, that reason is to contrast him with Macbeth. They both had the same temptation, similar temptation, dropped into their brains. One of them turned Macbeth into what we're going to see, and the other is Banquo kind of fighting against it. Okay, then Macbeth shows up. He doesn't know who it is yet. So, well, I don't think he does because, yeah, he says who's there, but it maybe shows he's a little jumpy. Okay, give me my sword. Who's there? A friend. Okay, now Banquo sees, oh, it's Macbeth. Oh, you're not sleeping yet? The king's in a good mood. He gave your wife a big diamond as a thank you for hosting him. A little bit more irony, and you're just like, oh, Duncan, he's so nice. Okay, but now he is asleep. All right. Oh, here, and he gives Macbeth the diamond to present to Lady Macbeth as a thank you for the wonderful hosting job they're doing for Duncan, which of course is all wrong. Um, okay, and he said, "Okay, yeah, no problem. We're taking care of him." And now look, Banquo brings it up. He goes, "Yeah, all's well." But then he says, "I dreamt last night of the three weird sisters. To you, they have shown some truth." Remember, they said we should talk about this later. All right. Look at Macbeth's response. Weird sisters? Oh yeah, I don't never really think about them. So clearly, we've got a liar here. Okay, yeah, but when we can entreat an hour to serve, when I have an hour to spend, we would spend it in some words upon that business if you would grant the time. So he's saying, yeah, we should talk about that later. Notice though, he's using the royal we because he says, I would spend it with words upon that if you would grant the time. He's not king yet, but he thinks he's gonna be king soon. So he's using the royal we already, which is kind of weird. Banquo says, sure, anytime you want. Now, here's a really interesting part. Macbeth says, if you shall cleave to my consent, when 'tis, it shall make honor for you. He's being really vague on purpose, but I think he's saying, because cleave means to stick to something. It also means to cut, it means the opposite too, but I think here it means to stick to my consent. Basically, I think he's saying, if you stick by me when it is, like when the time comes for what? He means like when he's king, but he's not really saying it. It shall make honor for you. So Macbeth is kind of just feeling now at the situation. Is Banquo going to be his loyal ally? Whether he's asking him to partake in the murder and all that, it's really too vague to be able to tell. But it seems like he's kind of testing the waters and saying, "You're going to stick. If you stick with me, it's going to be good for you. You're going to have honor from it." And so, if you do, so he's basically asking, "Will you?" And look at Banquo's response. This tells us so much about Banquo, who again is clearly shown to be kind of a foil to Macbeth. So I, which means if I lose none, none what? None of the honor. If I don't lose any honor in seeking to augment it and seeking to add to it, but still keep my bosom franchise, that means my heart free and my allegiance clear, I shall be counseled. So this is a really tricky response because maybe Banquo could tell that Macbeth is asking something kind of shady, and he says, "Well, if as long as I don't lose," he's like, "I'm not really sure what you're saying, but as long as I don't lose any honor in trying to add to my honor, but can still keep my heart clear and my allegiance clear." What's his allegiance to? It's probably to Scotland or to God, or to good, or all three. All right, then yeah, sure, I'll listen to you. But then I think we can tell from Macbeth's response, okay, good repose the while. I guess we'll wait until then. Let's keep resting. I think Macbeth can tell this is a dead end. Banquo is too honorable to be evil like me, so I'm not going to keep talking to him. Okay. But then Banquo and his kid leave. There's a servant here, and Macbeth says, "Go tell thy mistress," that's Lady Macbeth, "when my drink is ready, she should strike upon the bell." This is all code. My drink is not really his drink. He means like when the guards are passed out, she should hit a bell so that Macbeth knows it's time to go do the deed. That's what that really means. Now we get probably one of the most famous scenes in, well, maybe all of literature. Romeo and Juliet's balcony scene is one, and then this dagger scene is another one, and then there's one from Hamlet that I could think of that are probably like the most oftenly parodied and kind of referred to. And it's what happens here to Macbeth in his mind. Now he's alone on stage, so this is another soliloquy that starts right here. One of the most famous ones, and it's called the dagger speech. That's what we'll just call it. Because what he says is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? We're going to talk a lot about how to stage this, so we'll just kind of explain it to you once right here, so that you guys can get to work in class with what I'm going to ask you to do. So what's happening? He is imagining a dagger, not a pen, a dagger with the handle right towards his hand floating in front of his face. Is this a dagger that I see before me? What's going on? He's losing it. So here in this scene, we get, so we've had three parts to this scene. We had Banquo and Fleance, Banquo and Macbeth talk, and now it's Macbeth and himself. And we're going to see Macbeth start to hallucinate because he's losing his mind with the guilt and fear of what's happening. I guess really more fear here. Well, let's see. What is the impact of seeing a dagger? His mind creates a dagger in front of his eyes. Okay, and tell me what his response seems to be. Is it fear? Is it confidence? Come, let me clutch thee. So he tries to grab it. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. So that means he tries to grab it. He thinks he can actually hold it, but then he can't. So it's just a vision. It's just there like that. And then he starts to figure out, oh, art thou not fatal vision? Are you not sensible to feeling as to sight? Oh, I can't touch you, but I can only see you? Oh, I get it. Art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation? Hey, good job, Macbeth, you're catching on. Yeah, it is a dagger of the mind, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain. He's like, oh, maybe my feverish brain is making me hallucinate, because that does happen. So he's trying to explain it. I see thee, yeah, I still see you, in form as palpable, like I can touch you, as this which now I draw. Oh, so he's like, you seem just as real as this dagger. And then he holds up his actual dagger that he now pulls out of its holder, and now he's walking with it. Okay? Now, he continues talking to the dagger. Thou, you marshal, you show me the way that I was going. I was going that way. And such an instrument I was to use. And that's exactly what I was going to use to kill the king. Now he says, mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses. My eyes are the fools. My other senses are much stronger. Or else they're worth all the rest. He's not sure. Maybe are my eyes wrong and my other senses are all right? Or maybe my eyes are the only ones that are right and everything else is wrong. So reality and illusion are completely getting mixed up for him. That's clear. I see thee still, I still see you, but now what's changed? And on thy blade and dudgeon, gouts of blood, which was not so before. Ooh, the imagery of this like dagger dripping with this word gouts of blood makes me think of, I don't know, we don't use that word anymore, but globs are kind of what I think of. All right, so he's seeing it. Oh, now there's blood that appeared that's dripping off the thing. And now he says to himself, there's no such thing. So to me, this is like him thinking, okay, remember that's not real. It's not real. That's just in my mind. Okay, it's just the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. It's the plan. I know what I'm about to do, so that's making this happen in my brain. He's trying to understand to himself. All right, again, what's his state of mind? Is he feeling confident about this, or is it fear? What's happening? Now, or the one half world, nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Half the world is in darkness, is what he means. So what's now he's talking about night and what darkness does. Okay, wicked dreams are affecting people. Witchcraft is celebrating. Hecate is the goddess of witchcraft, which shows up a lot in this play. Okay, so now Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, is making witches do things, and now he's going to personify murder, who has been alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf. The wolf howled. Okay, and that means that murder now is getting ready to walk with his stealthy pace as Macbeth walks down the hallway. With Tarquin's ravishing strides towards his design, moves like a ghost. That's an allusion with an A to a myth of what's called the rape of Lucretia. Again, more evil things that he's talking about. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps. Who's he talking to here? The ground, the earth. And he's saying it, don't hear my steps, okay, and which way they walk, for fear that thy very stones prate of my whereabouts. He's talking to the ground and saying, don't let the stones echo where I am to the rest of the castle. Help me out here. And take the present horror from the time, which now suits with it. This is the time to do it. This is it. He's telling himself. He's like psyching himself up. It's night. It's dark. The witches are out. The wolf is howling. Murder is walking down the hallway. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. While as I threat, he lives. And now he realizes, as I talk about it, he's still alive. All right. Words to the heat of deed, too cold breath gives. There's a big kind of thematic thing that's going to keep happening that we're seeing here of him. Macbeth is always like weighing, should I do this, should I not? Lady Macbeth is like, do it, do it, do it. So now he's realizing, I'm just talking, and I'm cooling down the heat of the deed. So while the fire is hot, or while the iron is hot, whatever the expression is, it's time to act, okay? And while he's trying to psych himself up and make him stop dilly-dallying and wavering about it, I think I used that same exact expression in the last video, I apologize. We use that language with my son a lot. He dilly-dallies. It's okay, he likes that word. Anyway, what happens? A bell rings. Remember what the bell means? His drink is ready. It means the guards are out. So Lady Macbeth rang a bell, which is usually quiet on stage, and a bell rings and it's super creepy. Okay, so now he knows it's time. And he says, I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan. Now he's talking to dead, sleeping Duncan, who's about to be dead Duncan. For it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. Ooh, nice one. All right. Okay. Are you scared? It's okay. It's very scary. And maybe it's not scary to read it. It's kind of scary to see it. And certain versions will make it scary. But this is supposed to be like super eerie and creepy. And anyway, we'll talk about the other things that Shakespeare is doing in that one. Keep that one short. That was it. Scene 2 of Act 2. Scene 1 of Act 2, is done. All right. So what's next is, I guess, the action. We'll talk about how Shakespeare chooses to show us that action or not show us that action in the next scene, in the next video. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later.